there. It's Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting dodo birds. Leaky Black, Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do. To the like button. Shouts to Brandon Davies. If you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, please also do that while you're here. Let's get into it. We are continuing today our Summer Shootaround series that we're going to be doing over the next few weeks. We're going through the top 10 of the top 25 and 1 in the order that the schools are ranked. We've already done number 1, Kansas, number 2, Alabama, number 3, Houston, number 4, North Carolina, number 5, UConn, number 6, Iowa State, and number 7, Baylor. If you missed them and you're interested, just back up. You can find it. Now we're going to turn our attention to the team that is ranked 8th in the top 25 and 1. And that's Gonzaga. The Zags went 27-8 overall last season, 14-2 in the WCC, finished second in the league standings, one game back of St. Mary's, then lost to St. Mary's 69-60 in the title game of the WCC tournament. Got a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, beat McNeese State, and then Kansas to advance to the second weekend, lost to Purdue 80-68 in the Sweet 16. That's where things ended. The Zags finished 12th at both Kempom and Bart Torvik. From that team, Anton Watson, really the only meaningful player gone. Everybody else is back, including leading scorer and leading rebounder, Graham Ike. Again, I've got Gonzaga ranked 8th in the top 25 and 1. We're going to see what Norlander thinks about that next. But first, let's get a word from our partners.
Football action continues.
Are you ready for this? Ready to take chances?
As the gridiron is taken over by the Great White North.
It's time to storm the fortress. It's time to fight on the battlefield.
Catch the Canadian Football League on CBS Sports Network.
Okay, Norlander, Gonzaga as a preseason top 8 team, do you cherish it or would you chastise it?
I cherish it. I think this is for sure the first team we've got to where I have very high confidence I will have them rank higher than you when I have to do my rankings. The fact that Gonzaga is bringing back as much as they're bringing back, and that we'll see what Steel Venters can be for this upcoming season, because he missed all of last season with the torn ACL. Maybe he's able to step in and be super productive. He was a 15-point per game scorer back at Eastern Washington 2 seasons ago, but the amount of returning minutes they bring back, I don't know if you have this in your notes or not, but I did check Torvik, who is good for this. So Gonzaga brings back 81.4% of its minutes. Were you aware of that?
I was not aware of that, but I knew they bring him back a lot.
All right, good. So I can trivia time you here. Trivia time.
Okay.
There's only one high major program in the country bringing back a more percentage of its minutes than Gonzaga.
Okay.
I will give you the cheat that it is in the ACC.
Okay.
And the second sheet that it did not make the tournament last year. Can you guess the team in one guess?
Okay. ACC team did
Yes.
not make the tournament last year.
That's right.
All right. Let me look at this. See, let me take a gander.
While he does that,
I'm going to take a gander real quick.
Take a gander. Gonzaga is 7th in the country per Torvik in returning minutes. And there's only 2 other teams that are in the top 25 at the high major level that are returning minutes. You have Houston, which is around 11 or 12, and then Marquette sitting there just outside the top 20. So it's just Gonzaga, Houston, Marquette, and then this 4th team among high majors that rank top 25 in returning minutes. That's a big time situation. In my opinion, it's big for Gonzaga and its viability as a top 5 team going into the season. Again, you get Venters back, Graham Ike, who we just had our candidate coaches poll, the second one go up on Wednesday. And in that, we asked who's going to be the best player in the country this season. You can go check out the results of that. Won't spoil everything here. Cooper Flagg did win that one. However, one coach did vote for Graham Ike. Graham Ike actually got 1 vote. And when the coach submitted the name, I thought, well, I'm not going to pick him, and I won't pick him as a preseason first-team All-American or anything like that. But if you told me now that Anton Watson's gone, and then Ike really emerged as a big time, even more than last season. Like he could produce 18, 19 points a game alongside Nembhard and Hickman. I could buy that scenario entirely. So there's a ton to like about with the roster and everything here. Now that I have vamped and filled, for all I know, you just looked it up and cheated. But
I did not look it up and cheat. Hand to heart on my boys' lives.
What's your guess?
But in fairness, Nada did put a team in the chat private chat, and it was my guess.
It
That
is
would be my
not
guess.
correct. No,
I would go with Wake Forest is who I would pick.
Wake Forest is not the pick. It is actually, and if you're looking for maybe a tournament sleeper because the coach is highly regarded, new to D1 coaching, it's Notre Dame. So Notre Dame ranks top 5 in returning minutes. Perhaps Notre Dame can be a true ACC sleeper, but Notre Dame is unlike Gonzaga, Houston, and Marquette, the teams that rank top 25 in minutes returning, because all of those teams obviously have had tremendous recent success and set up to be in that top 5, top 10, depending on where you want to slot Marquette, top 15-ish, top 20 conversation there. Point is Gonzaga's bringing back a ton. And on that note, GP, I think this is a big year for the Zags ahead. And also, I think a top 10 offense is all but guaranteed again. You almost get that every single season. But with everyone they're bringing back, it would stun me if they didn't. That they're going to be so old. They're not just that they return all these guys, GP. They are super, super experienced. I think that goes a ton. And it was fair to ask in the past couple of years, did Gonzaga hit its apex as a program? It was awesome so frequently, but the fact that it was getting to the point where it's ranked number 1, number 2 in KenPom, it's making the Final Four, it's making the title game, all that. Would there be a slight downtick? Would it be trending down? Maybe not here, because if this team is capable of being top 5 in the country, getting a 1 or 2 seed, and being a Final Four national championship contender, I think that proves the skeptics wrong, and Mark Few could well have another Final Four team in him. This team seems to have a shot.
Like pet peeve of mine. I don't hate it. That's too strong of a word, but I sort of roll my eyes when people talk about that's a Final Four team. That's a Final Four team. I always try to throw in an extra word or two in there, that's a potential Final Four team. Because as we know, the best 4 teams almost never make it to the Final Four. So what is a Final Four team? There's not a single moment in time where anybody called NC State a Final Four team until they were in the Final Four. Yeah. So a team, one of the best 4 teams in the country, that's one definition of something. Among the teams that could make it to the last weekend, that's a definition of something. And that, I believe, is what Gonzaga is. On paper, they're a team that can play on the final weekend of the season. They're a team that theoretically could play for a national title, even win one. To your point about experience, I'll let Mark Few and his staff figure out the starting lineup. But one possible one would be Ryan Nembhard, Nolan Hickman, Steele Venters, Ben Gregg, Graham Ike. Yeah. And if you go that way, I mean, it's 4 4-year players, 4 4th-year players, and a 5th-year player. I mean, super old.
Yep.
And I'm intrigued by the roster construction. Again, just with that projected starting lineup, you would have Nolan Hickman and Ben Gregg, 2 guys who actually started their careers at Gonzaga as role players and have developed internally. You hear so much these days about you can't really develop internally at the high major level anymore, because if you got guys who aren't playing and they're not happy with their playing time, they're going to leave you. So you just develop them for somebody else. Well, here's a situation where neither one of these guys were impactful players immediately. They stayed in the program, they developed, and now they're starters on a preseason, what I think should be top 10 team. And then, Nembhard, Venters, and Ike are all transfers. So yeah, the Zags are using the transfer portal like everybody else, or like most others, but they're also developing internally. They found a nice balance there. And then, beyond that, we've talked about this with another team. I think it was UConn. What do you need to win the national championship? You need typically a great coach. You need experience. You need shooting, I think. You need NBA talent. I'm not sure where the NBA talent is here. That might be an issue. But the shooting and the experience is undeniable. You've got a future Hall of Fame coach. And Hickman, Venters, and Gregg at the Division I level last season all shot above 37% from 3. So you've got shooting at multiple positions. You're experienced at every position, and you got a future Hall of Fame coach. That's a good place to start.
Got to have Nembhard be even more improved. I think he will.
Well, he's one of the non-shooters.
I know. He's got to be more improved. He just and again, relative to how we're discussing Gonzaga here, if we're going to see Gonzaga be a top 10 team for much of the season, then Nembhard's got to be an even more reliable shooter. But also, yes, be the maestro, set up everyone. I don't want to say Nolan Hickman is what he is. I think there is a contingent of Gonzaga fans who do believe that because they have been waiting for Hickman to potentially emerge as this, star kind of player. It's really not what he has settled into. However, obviously a very valued member of that team and a critical, in my opinion, a critical returning piece. But then, so they bring in on the transfer wire here, Michael Ajayi, who averaged 17 at Pepperdine, who's a wing who's gonna get plenty of run. And I think that he is the guy on this roster where, unless you're and understandably so, a lot of people that are going to be dialed in this episode are Gonzaga fans. Unless you are dialed into Gonzaga basketball, you aren't quite aware of how he could be a real impact player. Him, then Caleb Battle, who's coming over from Arkansas, who averaged. I think he averaged. Let me double check this. I think
14.8 points.
He averaged 14 and change a game last season. Yeah. Now Arkansas was a mess.
They're terrible, yeah.
But he was able to provide there. And then Braden Smith from Colgate, the best player in the Patriot League, is going to come off the bench for Gonzaga here. And I would rank that among the 5 most undervalued quality transfer ads in the entire sport, because he's not necessarily going to be asked to start. Although if you told me he wound up starting games, I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. Unless is he going to sit out for a year? Because I had this in my notes here as we were getting going here. I think Smith, he might actually be sitting out.
I think the plan is to redshirt him.
Redshirt year. Okay. Scratch that, remove it, Willy Wonka style. Smith, a year from now, could be to that same kind of level of value overall. So even with it, that actually helps the math problem here, GP, because EK Venters, Stromer, who should be better, Nemhard, Huff, Greg, Ajayi, Battle. It's going to be a super, super deep team. And we'll get to this when we get to the schedule part of it. They're going to need this because the WCC is going to probably have its toughest gamut for Gonzaga, I think, in a long while, like not 2-3 years, like maybe 7, 8, 9 years, if not longer there, because you've got Oregon State, Washington State coming in. So I am high on this team. Your note about maybe, is there any NBA talent on the roster? Okay, maybe it's not there, but I don't know if that's going to slow me from seeing this team ceiling as being Final Four worthy, and this team being not one of the 3 or 4 best Gonzaga teams. I don't think that's where it's going, but certainly a team that is in that conversation consistently throughout the season as being among the 5 to 10 to 15 best for sure from November to March.
Yeah, like the NBA talent. If you wanted me to make the argument against Gonzaga, not against them as a top 10 team, because I just think they're going to be that, but as a legitimate national title contender, like where are the NBA players? Perhaps it's not as important as it once was, but I mean, we did just watch UConn win a national championship, and they had at least 5 NBA players on the roster. So it still matters some. That's a concern, but man, everything else I think I like. You mentioned Battle. There's a guy who's a 6th-year player, all right? He'll be a 6th year of college, and he's at his 4th different school. And though he didn't shoot it great from 3 last season, while mostly coming off of Arkansas's bench, he did average nearly 15 points per game, and it was 35.3% from 3. So that's good, but not great. 2 years ago, he shot 48.8% from 3 on 6.1 attempts per game. So he has shown to be a
toasty.
Wow. Woo! I mean, nearly 50% on more than 6 attempts per game is outrageous. That's really good. That's excellent. So I'm not saying he can get that. Might just be the peak of everything. But if he could settle in somewhere closer to 40% on something closer to 5 attempts per game, like that would be down from where he was 2 years ago at Temple, but up from last year at Arkansas. And you got somebody like that coming off your bench, that's strong. Braden Huff's another one who was just a role player last year, but he averaged 9.3 points in 13.3 minutes per game. Like when he was on the court, he was scoring at a pretty efficient level. Shot 60% from the field. So they're deep in addition to everything else we've already talked about. They're old. They're talented. They have shooting at multiple positions. They've got really nice pieces coming off their bench. The future Hall of Fame coach. There's a lot of stuff to like. And to your point about the WCC, they do add 2, quote, Pac-12 schools. but both are expected to be down relative to, what you might think, not you, but people might think they are. For instance, for whatever it's worth, at Torvik right now, preseason, Gonzaga's 8th. Next, St. Mary's at 38. After that, San Francisco at 84. And then Washington State at 86, Santa Clara 99, Oregon State 141. So I don't think you'll find another league in the country featuring a team we are going to talk about a lot this season where there's a 30-spot gap in the preseason Torvik rankings between them and everybody else.
I would bet I think you might too. I would bet against a 30-spot gap between Gonzaga and St. Mary's when it's all said and done. And I would think that the WCC will wind up having 3 teams in the top 70, 75. It's had that much of in recent seasons. And I think that the middle is actually going to be solid enough. Gonzaga is still going to win first place in the league, at least it should, and be able to bounce back after a rare year where it was sub 500 against St. Mary's. They went 1-2 against St. Mary's last season. We almost never see that happen. But it's also, there's one more road game involved in there. Had Washington State not lost its coach, Kyle Smith, now at Stanford, they'd be even more highly regarded. But it's a good point on all that. By the way, Mark Few, obviously, of course, now back stateside after being an assistant coach for the United States Olympic winner.
But not a gold medalist. You don't get a gold medal for coaching.
You don't as a coach. How do we feel about that?
I don't like that. I don't like it at all.
What's the reason? I guess if you gave a medal of any kind to any coach, I guess the inventory gets quadrupled, and that can become problematic, I guess. And I suppose. And
I guess you just don't want like Katie Ledecky's coach being a gold medalist, maybe. I guess
does the coach get a gold medal every single time Ledecky finishes? I can understand. That.
It's starting to make sense to me. When I put it like that, it makes sense.
That is.
But I think of team sports, the Celtics win a title. Joe Mazzulla gets a ring.
Yeah.
He's considered a champion. It feels like Steve Kerr should be treated the same way here, but, I can't be given.
I hear you. I wonder what they get, but I don't know the answer to this, though. Like, Mark Few had the honor of being an assistant under Kerr. You get an all-expenses-paid trip for 40-plus days and going to, where were they? Abu Dhabi. They were in Vegas, and they went to France and whatever. So that's great.
London for a day.
London, right? So that's great. I don't know. Don't really much care, but I'm actually kind of curious. Like,
you know what you get? Here's what you get. First off, you just get the experience of
being
around the best
which is huge. And USA basketball
on the planet. Yeah. You know what else you get? You get, because I've had other coaches who have worked with USA basketball tell me this. You know what you get? You're sitting with a recruit and his family, and you're like, hold on a second. Let me FaceTime Katie real quick. Hey, it's Fewy, KD, and then it's boom, and like it's that kind of stuff too.
You do get that, yes. Which is obviously very big. The USA basketball connection can also be highly beneficial. But congrats to Few for getting a front row seat to just what I'd love to know. Haven't talked to him yet since he got back. I'd love to know in his heart of hearts, like what he just experienced. Was this as good? Was it better than getting to a title game, getting to the Final Four the first time? I think Gonzaga fans would completely understand if he said that this experience ranked at the top of his entire career.
I would. Now we're getting off track, but it doesn't matter. Like we always get off track. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Steph said this trumps everything he's ever done, because it's like you are responsible for winning the semifinals and the finals, and you will forever be remembered as like that guy who did that thing. The truth is, when you coach USA basketball, you don't get any credit for it. Like nobody is out. There's not one person writing a column saying Steve Kerr just guided USA basketball to a gold medal, and thank God we got him. Like, even if that's,
yes and no. I mean, there's a decent portion of Krzyzewski's legacy.
Kay got credit because he took over a disaster and made it good.
Yeah, and Pop got some. Chuck Daly. I wouldn't totally agree with that. I understand what you're saying, but I feel like it is a major attachment to a coaching resume, and certainly a Hall of Fame. It is a major bullet point on getting into the Hall of Fame. Not that Kerr needed it.
Sure.
To doing that, but yes, as it should be, the lion's share of the credit goes to the biggest star players.
Let me put it this way. if you're Mark Few and you get Gonzaga to multiple Final Fours as a WCC program, you're in the Hall of Fame. That people point to that, and people.
No, this is a bigger thing. I'm just saying for him personally, what he experienced, I wonder where it would rank.
Yeah, for him personally, people go, Mark Few just built one of the greatest programs in America in the most improbable place. That's amazing. That's the way they talk about what he did at Gonzaga, what he's done at Gonzaga, what he's doing at Gonzaga. They don't even talk about him with USA Basketball. I was like, what did he do?
I know, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what he experienced as a single event.
Like, what was it like benching Jason Tatum? That's what
exactly.
I'd like to know that. No, I hear you. I hear you. It's probably an amazing experience.
Yeah.
I think we're talking about it two different ways.
Yeah.
You get credit for what you've done at Gonzaga. You don't really get any for what you've done with USA Basketball.
Most people don't even realize Mark Few is.
No, they don't even know. You get some nice polos and and an amazing experience, but it probably stops right around there.
Let's look at the schedule here. Do the over/under game. As I mentioned on the Baylor episode, Baylor and Gonzaga are in talks to play each other likely in the first week of the season. That has not been official. There is no contract done because they don't have a venue. But Mark Few and Scott Drew want to make this happen. They just got to try and hash it out and get it done here, I think, over the course of August. November 10th, Gonzaga will play at home against Arizona State. They're in a home-and-home with the Sun Devils this year and next. So they'll go to Tempe next year. They've got at San Diego State on the return of a home-and-home. It's the only road game, even though this non-con is loaded as usual. This is the only roadie on November 18th. And then they're in the Battle for Atlantis the week of Thanksgiving. The teams in the Battle for Atlantis, we don't have the bracket yet. We don't have the matchups. Arizona, Davidson, Indiana, Louisville, Oklahoma, Providence, and West Virginia. It's pretty solid field. Not an amazing field, but a solid one. Almost definitely Arizona and Gonzaga will be on opposite sides, and so they will either need to meet in the championship game or have themselves both lose in the same round in order to have Tommy Lloyd face his mentor. December 7th, they play Kentucky in Seattle. A week later, on December 14th, they play UConn at Madison Square Garden. They've got UCLA in the new Intuit Dome, home of the Clippers, on December 28th. So barring anything else being added, and I wouldn't think that's the case, that is Baylor, Arizona State, San Diego State's 3, Battle for Atlantis is 6, Kentucky 7, UConn's 8, UCLA is 9 notable non-con games. Of course, Few loads up because of the WCC slate, but it is now 18 games. They will have home and homes with Oregon State and Washington State. Fun little wrinkle to that is that Gonzaga basically moved out of step with Washington State. Those schools, after playing nearly annually for a long, long time, they've met 76 times in their history, have not played each other since December 2nd, 2015. Washington State holds the all-time lead in the series, but obviously Gonzaga's owned that for the better part of a decade and a half here. I'm going to go, that non-con's no joke, GP. I think the league schedule will be tougher on average here than it's been, but with one more road game in there and all those tough ones, I will go over under 23.5 wins for Gonzaga in the regular season.
That's disrespectful.
It's not. It's actually very rational and reasonable.
No,
it is not disrespectful in the slightest.
I have heard that's the most disrespectful thing I've heard since you questioned UConn after back-to-back national championships.
By the way, you had UConn winning like 17 games, so let's keep it moving.
I got UConn going 31-0 heading into the Big East tournament. I think I'm on record.
Yep.
All right. What you just said is disrespectful.
What I just said is a loaded schedule. So let's go.
Okay. Let's talk to this non-league. They're going to lose some. You do. UConn at the Garden seems like, if I got UConn going 31-0, I can't contradict myself, can I?
That's right.
Okay. So that's,
you can, because you don't actually have them going 31-0. Feel free
I've got them going 31-0. 31-0. And if they could schedule another game at the Pentagon.
How do you have UConn going 31-0, but they're not preseason number 1? Explain that. Untwist that riddle for me.
You are asking too many questions right now.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go.
I need to be talking to Elon. He doesn't ask any tough questions. I need Elon here. He doesn't ask any tough questions. All right? He just nods along and says, sure. When I say I've got UConn going 31-0, I need you to act like Elon and just go, yeah, sure. I got
lost to UConn in the Garden.
Okay. And let's lose. Let's lose another one somewhere.
I mean, at least another one, GP.
I'm going to go 3 non-league losses.
It's fair.
And I don't know where they're coming.
I know. You never like to identify them.
I
I
don't
know.
like that. I want to leave some of it. It's like, Taylor Swift doesn't tell
I'll
you.
do it for you. You got them
line.
going 2-1 at Atlantis. You got them losing to UConn, and you got them losing at San Diego State.
Does Taylor Swift come out and tell you what every line and every song means? No, she leaves it open for interpretation. I'm leaving it open for
not an apt analogy.
I leave it open for I'm a little bit like the Taylor Swift of predicting records before conference tournaments.
Makes no sense.
I'm going to have them losing 3, but I can't tell you exactly where they are. I want to leave that open to interpretation. Okay. But let's just say it could be UConn in the Garden, UCLA in LA, and somewhere in Atlantis. You ready for this, though?
He's got Gonzaga winning at San Diego State.
All right. That's disrespectful to the Aztecs.
Yep, and you just disrespected them. Keep it moving. What are they doing in the WCC?
17-1. They'll be favored in every game. They'll lose 1, but they will lose. They'll have 4 losses going into.
Only losing 1 game in the league.
They're going to run through it. They will enter the WCC tournament, which means they will enter the WCC semifinals. I love that. They just put them right to the semifinals.
Great, I know.
They will. It is great. It's just like it doesn't matter. Just we're going to watch Gonzaga on Monday. I know it every week. Yep. We're going to watch Gonzaga. Gonzaga's going to finish playing on a Saturday, and then we're going to watch them again the following Monday. Every year. They're going to be 27-4 heading into the WCC tournament.
Damn. Then why you got them 8th?
Because it's some of this is schedule related, Like
doesn't sound like it.
I can think Baylor is going to be better than Gonzaga, but believe
you've got Gonzaga beating Baylor, and that's totally fair. I get all that. Man. 27-4 is ambitious. I don't think you'll have another school that has that many wins in the over-under game.
Well, some of it is the league they play in.
I'm going to go 24-7, and I'll have them losing at least 2 WCC games, which they did last season, but now they got the bonus roadie in there. I'll go 24-7 and a respectable 24-7, but picked off at San Diego State, lose in a game in the Battle for Atlantis. UConn one's a little bit tricky there. Maybe UCLA. There's a lot. They credit to Mark Few. I get it why he does it. And then like all the non-high majors are going to be sub 250 teams. I get all that stuff. But this is a loaded non-conference slate, and it has to be by design because of what the WCC does not provide. But I do think the projection. I think the league this year in the WCC. Couple Q3 games will become Q2 games. You might get one Q2 become a Q1, maybe a couple Q4s become Q3s. I just think the league will have a little bit more well-roundedness to it, and that can help Gonzaga's case as well.
Before we get out of here, we got a couple of streaks that are intact connected to this program. One is the NCAA tournament streak. They played in 25 consecutive ones. That's, I know you know this, the 3rd longest streak in the nation, behind only Kansas and Michigan State. Kansas has been to 34 straight, Michigan State to 26. Gonzaga has also made 9 straight Sweet 16s. Trivia time.
By the way, before you do this, last year in the preseason, we both predicted that streak would end. We were both wrong.
I don't think I did.
You did. I promise you.
I don't remember it that way.
Yep.
I was wrong. That's not the way I remember it.
That one's on me.
I was wrong.
We both said it would stop, and we were both wrong.
I don't remember that. Yeah. North Carolina's been to 9 straight Sweet 16s. Who's been to the most consecutive Sweet 16s? What school?
I gotta say it's North Carolina.
How many?
Give me 3 guesses.
Sure.
First guess is 13.
God damn. You got it. Bingo. Ding, ding, ding. Look at you.
I thought it was 13, then I was going to go 12 and then go 14. Let me try and give you the years. I'll go, they did it from, did they do it from 81 to 94? You have it in front of you?
Yeah, I mean, the math wouldn't work like that.
81, 93?
Yeah, 81 and 93.
81, 93. There we go.
Okay. Yep. Look at you. Maybe you're a genius.
There we go.
I might have sold you short.
You might have.
I might have sold you short. Where's Dr. Naismith from?
He's from one of the provinces in Canada. We've got.
Yeah, but which one?
Alberta?
I hope so.
You know what? We'll cross-reference on the pod here. I'll look it up for you right now.
I got it.
thought you had the answer.
This fella is from Almonte, Canada West. What is that even? That's not even a real place.
You don't know.
That's not even a real place. I've never heard of Canada West. What is Canada West? That's outrageous.
I think it's in the east, by the way.
I hope so. That's where it should be. That don't make any sense.
Oh,
He
man.
died. You know where he died, though?
I believe Naismith passed in the great state of Kansas.
Lawrence, Kansas. He died right there in Lawrence, Kansas.
There you go.
Yeah. I don't know what to follow that up with.
I think we're done here. Is what that is a show.
I had a million things swirling in my head of what to piggyback on Dr. Naismith, but none of them were good.
I think you need to keep Dr. Naismith's name out of your mouth. I think that's what we've learned on the podcast.
I never heard of West Canada. I don't think that's a real place. I think he's a fake Canadian. People need to look into
All I know is I brought up West Canada on this wiki link and it showed me a picture of East Canada. So I'm done.
What is going on up there? What is going on up there? They've been predicting Drake for years. You know that. They've been protecting Drake for years, and now they got West Canada on the east side of the country. What's going on up there? That's the border we need to look at.
Let's go.
Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Terry Teagle. He's a legend. Shouts to Huck Larnell, Quebec, and Alberta. If you're not subscribed to the Ion College Basketball Podcast, go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, including Apple, Spotify. More of us than there are of them. That needs to be reflected in the comments. And we'll talk to you again real soon. Till then, take care.